My daughter-in-law was leaving on a trip with my son and the kids. Before she left, she told me in her usual tone, "We won't be needing you this time, Eleanor, but make sure you leave the house clean." Those words hung in the air like stale cigarette smoke. It wasn't what she said, but how she said it, with that crooked smile she used whenever she wanted to remind me of my place in my own home. I was in the kitchen, drying a plate that wasn't even mine. Chloe was carrying her designer suitcase, the one that cost over $1,000 from my savings, though she would never mention it. And my son Kevin was just scrolling on his phone, as if nothing was happening, as if he hadn't just heard his wife treat me like I was the hired help. "Did you hear me, Eleanor?" she said again, now using my name like it was a command. "The house clean, the floors, the bathrooms, and please, don't touch our things, in my house." But I didn't say anything, just nodded, like I had for 2 years. Because that's what mothers do, right? They keep quiet, they endure, they forgive, over and over again. Kevin finally looked up. "Mom, are you okay?" I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to ask him at what point I stopped being his mother and became just another piece of furniture in his marriage, but I only smiled. "Of course, honey. Have a great time." The kids hugged me before they left. Caleb, at 12 years old, squeezed me tight. "I'm going to miss you, Grandma." Lily, the youngest, kissed my cheek. "Why don't you come with us?" Chloe pulled Lily away by the arm. "Because your grandmother has things to do here. Let's go." The door shut with a solid thud. The silence that followed was so heavy I had to sit down. And then, in that moment, as I stared at the keys to my house on the table, keys they used as if they were their own, something inside me broke. But not like before. This time, it wasn't pain. It was clarity. I stood up. I walked to my bedroom. Well, what was left of it. It was the guest room now because they needed the master bedroom for their family. I opened the drawer where I kept my important papers. And there it was, the deed to the house. In my name. It had always been in my name. I picked up the phone. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something I hadn't felt in years. I dialed a number I had sworn I'd never call again. "Caroline?" I said when she answered. "It's me. It's Eleanor. And I need help." There was a long silence on the other end. Then, the voice of my sister, whom I hadn't spoken to in 15 years, sounded clear. "Eleanor, what happened? What happened is I stopped being myself, and this time I'm going to get myself back." I hung up. I looked out the window. Kevin's car was already turning the corner. I had 7 days. 7 days before they returned. And when they came back, nothing was going to be as they left it. Because sometimes, the only way to get your life back is to close the door on those who turned it into their territory. If this story has already touched something in your heart, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next, nobody saw coming. Not even me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed seated in the living room with a cup of chamomile tea that grew cold in my hands, staring at the walls of what was once my home. You know, there's a moment in every woman's life when she stops seeing herself in the mirror. Not because she has aged, but because she has become invisible to everyone, including herself. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when Eleanor Peterson was a name people said with respect. I was 28 years old when I became a widow. Kevin had just turned 5. My husband, Arthur, died in an accident on the highway heading out of state. A semi-truck, a curve, and in a second, my life was split in two. I was left alone, with a small child, no savings, and a mortgage to pay. But I didn't sink. I couldn't afford that luxury. With the money from Arthur's life insurance, $50,000 that seemed like a fortune back then, I opened a small stationery and gift shop in the town square. Eleanor's Corner, I called it. Nothing fancy, nothing luxurious, but it was mine. For 30 years, that shop was my second child. I opened at 7 in the morning and closed at 8 at night. I sold notebooks, pens, made copies, sent faxes. I knew every customer by name. Mrs. Gable, who bought poster board every week for her grandkids' school projects. Mr. Henderson, who printed his legal documents with me because he said I was the only one who didn't overcharge him. With that business, I paid for Kevin's private school. I bought him new uniforms every year, even if I wore the same blouse for 3 seasons. I paid for his coding classes, his tutoring, everything I never had. When he got into the state university, I sold my car, a 2005 Honda Civic that still ran perfectly, to pay his tuition. Mom, you'll see, when I graduate, I'm going to pay you back for everything, Kevin would tell me while I ironed his shirts for his presentations. And I believed him, because that's what mothers do. We believe. When he graduated, I got a loan for $30,000 to give him the down payment for his first condo. It's an investment, Mom. When I sell it, I'll pay you back with interest. I signed without a second thought. 2 years later, he sold that condo. I never saw a dollar of that money again. I invested it in a business, Mom. It's going to make us so much more money. Just be patient. Then he met Chloe. The first time I saw her, I knew there was something about her I didn't like. It wasn't her expensive clothes or the way she spoke as if she was chewing on her words. It was the way she looked at my house, my shop, me, as if she were evaluating how much everything was worth, how much she could get out of it. But Kevin was in love, and when a son is in love, the mother steps aside. They got married in a wedding that cost $80,000. I contributed $20,000. It's so your son can have the special day he deserves, Chloe told me while picking out the most expensive venue. I closed my shop for 3 days to go to the bank, take out the loan, and hand it to her. At the wedding, Chloe sat me at a table in the back, next to some distant cousins I didn't even know. Kevin was so busy with photos he barely said hello. It was there, watching my son dance with his wife under those bright lights that I helped pay for, that I started to disappear. 3 years later, when Caleb was born, they named him after my husband's father, though Chloe wanted to change it. Kevin came to my house. Mom, we need your help. With the baby, Chloe can't work. Could we stay with you for a few months? Of course, my son. This is your house. The months turned into years, and my house became theirs. I sold the shop a year ago. Chloe convinced Kevin it was time for me to rest. You've done enough, Eleanor. Now we'll take care of you. But no one asked me if I wanted to rest. No one asked me if I wanted to keep working. Feeling the jingle of the bell on the door, the smell of fresh ink, the conversations with my customers who were more my family than my own blood. With the money from the sale, $150,000, Kevin invested in his business. Chloe bought new furniture for my living room, and I was left with $60,000 in an account I barely touched because every time they needed something, there I was. I stared at my reflection in the dark living room window. A 67-year-old woman, with gray hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, wearing a robe that had seen better days. When did I stop being Eleanor and become the mother-in-law? Mom, I need money? The woman who cleaned bathrooms, she didn't dirty and cooked meals no one thanked her for. But that night, sitting in the darkness of my own home, something changed. I remembered the woman who opened a shop with a child in her arms and fear in her chest, but who did it anyway. The woman who never gave up, not when the bank denied her the first loan, not when customers were slow to come, not when the nights were so long they seemed endless. That woman was still there, buried, quiet, forgotten. But she was alive, and it was time for her to come back. Because you can take everything from a woman, her house, her money, her time. But there's one thing you can never steal from her, the moment she decides she's had enough. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The sun streamed through the window of my room, the guest room. I corrected myself bitterly, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't wake up thinking about what I had to do for them. I woke up thinking about me. I made coffee, not the instant kind Chloe preferred, but the whole bean coffee I kept hidden in the back of the pantry, the kind I bought secretly because it uses too much electricity to grind it, Eleanor. The aroma filled the kitchen, and I closed my eyes. It smelled like freedom. I took an old notebook, one of the leftovers from the shop, and started walking through the house. My house. But this time, I didn't see it with the eyes of a mother or a resigned woman. I saw it with the eyes of an owner, a woman who had been dispossessed without even realizing it. I started in the living room. The modern gray sofa Chloe had bought with money from the business took up the center. My wooden rocking chair, the one Arthur had given me for our 5th anniversary, was shoved into the hallway, covered with boxes of the kids' toys. I sat in it. It creaked as if it recognized me, as if it were asking, "Where have you been?" I wrote in the notebook, "Rocking chair. Mine." I continued to the dining room. The table was new, glass, more modern, according to Chloe. My pine table, the one where Kevin had done his homework for 12 years, where we celebrated his birthdays with sheet cake and colorful candles, was in the junk room. I went to see it. It was dusty. One leg was wobbly. I ran my hand over the surface and found something carved into the wood. K+M equals love. Kevin and Mom. He had carved it with a nail when he was 8. I had scolded him, but secretly, I loved it. Now that table was junk to them. Pine table. Mine. I went up to the master bedroom. My bedroom, the one I shared with Arthur for 15 years. Now it was Kevin and Chloe's. The king-sized bed they bought, with the $2,000 they borrowed and never paid back, took up the whole space. The walls were painted gray, not the sky blue I had chosen because it reminded me of happier days. I opened the closet. My clothes were compressed into one corner. The rest belonged to Chloe: dresses, shoes, bags. I counted 22 pairs of shoes. 22. I had 3. In the top drawer, where I kept my important documents, I found something that made my blood run cold. A folder. Inside were papers, printouts of emails. I read the first one. "Kevin, my love, I finally convinced your mom to lend us another $5,000 for the business. She's so naive, she didn't even ask what it was for. I told her it was for expansion, and she gave it to me without a second thought. With this, we've gotten $12,000 from her, and the best part is she thinks we're actually going to pay her back someday." The emoji, that laughing emoji, laughing at me. My hands trembled so much, I dropped the paper. I took a deep breath and kept reading. I already spoke with the notary. If your mom signs the power of attorney, we're going to give her to streamline the will process. We can use the house as collateral for the loan. She won't even notice. It's our chance to get the money we need. I've almost got her convinced. I sat on the floor, right there, on the floor of my own bedroom, reading how my daughter-in-law and my son were planning to steal the only thing I had left. I didn't cry. I had no more tears left for them. I took the entire folder, put it in my bag, and went down to the garden. My garden, the one I had tended for 20 years, where I planted roses, jasmine, bougainvillea. Now it was a play area with a plastic slide and a deflated inflatable pool. The pots were thrown next to the trash can. The roses were dead. I picked up a pot. The soil was still there. I squeezed a fistful of dirt between my fingers and felt it. It still had life. Garden. Mine. I went back to the kitchen. I opened the cabinets. The porcelain dishes my mother had given me, the only thing I had left of her, were pushed to the very back, replaced by modern dinnerware from IKEA. I took out one of my mother's plates. It had a crack. I remembered when it fell during an argument months ago, when Chloe yelled at me, "Why do you cook with so much salt, Eleanor? No one can eat this." That day, that plate cracked, and I said nothing. Now, I held it in my hands as if it were gold. Mom's plates. Mine. I spent 3 hours taking that inventory. 3 hours counting everything they had taken from me without asking. Not just things, memories, dignity, space. My list ended with 17 items. 17 things that were mine and had been relegated, hidden, forgotten. But there was something else on that list. Something I wrote at the very end, with a steady hand. Eleanor Peterson. Mine. I sat down again in the empty living room, with the folder of emails beside me and my inventory notebook on my lap. I picked up the phone. I dialed Caroline's number. This time, she answered on the first ring. "Caroline," I said, "I need you to come over. I have something to show you." "Eleanor, what happened?" "What happened is I found the truth, and now I'm going to get my life back. All of it." There was a pause. Then I heard her voice, clear and firm. "I'm on my way. Give me an hour." I hung up. I looked around. This house had been my prison, but prisons only work when you don't realize the key has been in your own pocket all along, and I had just found mine. Because sometimes, The first step to getting yourself back isn't confronting the one who took everything from you. It's taking an inventory of what you still have and realizing that's enough to start over. Caroline arrived exactly 53 minutes later. I watched her park from the window. She was driving a simple but well-kept white Toyota Camry. She got out with a leather briefcase under her arm and sunglasses she removed before ringing the doorbell. When I opened it, we just stared at each other in silence. 15 years. 15 years without seeing each other. And there was my younger sister, with shorter hair, a few gray strands she didn't bother to hide, and the same brown eyes that had looked at me since childhood. "Eleanor," she said simply. "Caroline." We didn't hug right away. There was too much broken time between us, too many words never spoken. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. She entered slowly, looking at every corner as if memorizing the house. She stopped in front of a photo on the wall. Kevin, as a boy, at his elementary school graduation. I was beside him, smiling, still in my uniform from the shop because I had come straight from work. "You look happy there," Caroline said softly. I was. We sat in the living room. I served her coffee. My hands still trembled a little, not from nerves, but from everything I was about to release. "Eleanor," Caroline began, setting her cup on the table. 15 years ago, you slammed the door in my face. You told me I only wanted your money, that I was jealous, that Kevin was right about me. Do you remember?" I closed my eyes. Of course I remembered. I remember. "Then tell me, what changed? Why are you calling me now?" I handed her the folder, the one I had found in my bedroom. Caroline opened it and began to read. I saw her jaw tighten with each page. When she finished, she closed the folder with a sharp thud. "Sons of..." She stopped herself. She took a deep breath. "Eleanor, this is attempted fraud. Did you sign that power of attorney they mention?" "No, they hadn't given it to me yet, but I was going to. Chloe told me it was to make things easier for me when I couldn't manage my own affairs. That it was normal, that all families did it." Caroline closed her eyes and shook her head. "Eleanor, if you had signed that, they could have sold this house without you even knowing. Taken out mortgages, emptied your accounts, all legally because you would have given them the power to do it." The silence that followed was as heavy as a stone. "There's something else you need to know," Caroline said after a moment. Her voice sounded tired, as if she were carrying something she had held on to for a long time. 15 years ago, when you stopped talking to me, it wasn't because I wanted your money. It was because I told Kevin no." I looked at her, not understanding. "Your son came to my house. He was 26. He told me he was in a bind, that he needed money urgently, that it was for a business that was going to change his life. He asked me for $10,000. He said he had asked you, but you wouldn't give it to him. I felt the floor move beneath me. I had just started my law practice," Caroline continued. "I didn't have that kind of money, but I took out a loan. I gave him the $10,000. He had me sign a promissory note. He promised he would pay me back in 6 months with interest." "Caroline, I never saw a dollar of it, Eleanor. Not one. When I went to find him, Chloe, they were dating by then, kicked me out of their apartment. She told me I was a gold digger, that I was making things up to get money from them. And Kevin didn't say a word. He just watched me from behind her and let her insult me." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. Don't you remember? I went to your house, to the shop. I said, 'Eleanor, we need to talk about Kevin.' And you screamed at me. You told me I was jealous of your son, that I had always been the envious one in the family, that I couldn't stand to see you happy. Kevin had filled your head with lies. He told you I was inventing fake debts to blackmail him. I covered my face with my hands. Oh my God. Caroline, I didn't know." I know. That's why I'm here." She leaned forward and took my hands in hers. "Eleanor, for 15 years I was angry with you, but I also missed you every single day. And when you called me yesterday, I knew you had finally opened your eyes. Forgive me," I whispered. "Please, forgive me. I forgave you a long time ago. What I didn't forgive was not fighting harder to make you see the truth. But now we can fix this." "How?" "Caroline, he's my son. I know, and I don't want you to lose your son. But I also can't stand by and watch them destroy you. She opened her briefcase and took out a tablet. I'm a lawyer specializing in family and estate law, and what I'm about to tell you isn't easy, but you need to hear it. This house is in your name, right? Yes, Arthur and I bought it 35 years ago. When he died, it was left entirely in my name. Does Kevin pay rent? Do you have a lease agreement? Anything legal that authorizes him to live here? No. I just told them they could stay. Caroline nodded. Then, legally, you have every right to ask them to leave. It's your property. And with these emails you found, we have evidence of attempted property fraud. If necessary, we could even file a police report. I don't want to send my son to jail, Caroline. I know, and it doesn't have to come to that. But, she looked at me intently. Do you want to keep living like this? Being the maid in your own house? Waiting for the day they ask you to sign a paper that leaves you on the street? I didn't answer, because the answer was already clear. You have 7 days before they come back, Caroline continued. 7 days to reclaim your house, your life, your dignity. But you need to decide now. Are you going to keep being the mother who sacrifices in silence? Or are you going to be the woman who defends herself? I looked at my sister, the sister I had lost by believing lies. The sister who, despite everything, was here offering me her hand. I want to be Eleanor again, I said with a firm voice. I want to be me. Caroline smiled. For the first time in 15 years, I saw the smile I remembered from our childhood. Then let's get started. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Caroline took notes, made calls, reviewed documents. Every so often she would explain a legal point, and I would nod, still not quite believing this was happening. When the sun began to set, Caroline closed her briefcase. We start tomorrow. I'm bringing a locksmith, a notary, and all the papers we need. But, Eleanor, there's something you need to understand. When you do this, there's no going back. Kevin is going to react badly. Chloe, worse. It's going to hurt. It already hurts, I replied. It's been hurting for years. But this pain, this one is different. This pain has a purpose. Caroline hugged me, and this time, I hugged her back, tightly, like sisters. When she left, I was alone in the house. But for the first time in a long time, that loneliness didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like preparation, because some people come into your life to rescue you, and sometimes, those people are the same ones you let go of years ago. All you need is the courage to call them back. Tuesday dawned differently. Not because the sun was brighter or the birds sang differently. It dawned differently because I was different. Caroline arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning with 2 coffees and a box of donuts. Behind her was a man in his 50s, wearing blue overalls and carrying a toolbox. This is Tony, Caroline introduced. Best locksmith in the city. And more importantly, he's discreet. Tony greeted me with a firm handshake. Mrs. Peterson, with your permission, we're going to change all the locks. The main one, the back door, the windows, everything. When I'm done, you will be the only person with keys to this house. I stared at the door. The same door Kevin and Chloe had walked out of 3 days ago. The same one they closed without looking back. Do it, I said. While Tony worked, Caroline spread papers out on the dining room table. First things first, she said, placing the deed to the house in front of me. This property has been in your name since 1990, 35 years. There are no other names on the title, not Kevin's, not Chloe's, nobody's. It's yours, completely. But they live here, I said, still with that voice of doubt that had accompanied me for so long. They live here because you allowed it. That's called a verbal tenancy at will. But since there's no contract, they have no possession rights. Legally, they are guests, and guests leave when the owner decides. She passed me another document. This is a friendly eviction notice. It's not a lawsuit. It won't go to court. It's just a paper where you, as the owner, inform them that you need them to vacate the property within 30 days. 30 days? It's the legal minimum to not seem arbitrary. But Caroline looked at me seriously. You don't have to give it to them if you don't want to. This is just in case you need legal backup. My recommendation is that when they return, you talk to them. Explain that this is your house and you need your space back. If they react poorly, then we use this." I nodded, though my stomach churned at the thought of that conversation. Now, the second thing. Caroline took out the folder of emails I had found. "This is evidence of conspiracy to commit property fraud. With these messages, we could file a criminal complaint. But that would mean Kevin would have a record. He could even go to jail." "No," I said immediately. "I don't want that. I know, but you need to keep this stored in a safe place. Because if they react violently, if they try to do anything against you, this is your protection. Understand?" "I understand." Tony finished with the front door. "All set, Mrs. Peterson. Give it a try." He handed me 3 new keys. I held them in my hand. They were heavy, real. I locked the door and unlocked it again. The sound of the deadbolt was different, firmer, as if the house itself were saying, "Now you're protected." "Now we need to talk about money," Caroline said when we sat down again. "How much do you have saved?" $60,000. In the bank. Does Kevin have access to that account?" I froze. I don't know. Years ago, I gave him a supplementary card for emergencies." Caroline was already dialing her phone. "We're going to the bank. Now." In less than an hour, we were at the branch. The bank teller, a young woman named Fernanda, looked up my account. "Mrs. Peterson, I see there's an additional cardholder named Kevin P. Peterson. He has the same access as you." I felt the air leave my lungs. "Can I cancel it?" "Of course. It's your account. I can do it right now." "Please, do it." Fernanda typed something on her computer. "Done. The card has been canceled. I also recommend you change your PIN and activate text alerts for any transactions." "There's something else," Caroline intervened. "We need to open a new account. In my sister's name only, at a different bank." 2 hours later, my $60,000 were in a new account at a different bank with a card that only I knew about. "Now he can't touch you," Caroline said as we left the bank. "Your money is safe." But I still didn't feel safe. I felt like I was betraying my son. Caroline must have seen something in my face because she stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and took me by the shoulders. "Eleanor, listen to me carefully. Protecting what's yours is not betrayal. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. What we're doing is justice. It's taking back what they never should have taken from you." We returned to the house. Tony had already finished with all the locks. He handed me a set of 6 keys. "Your fortress is ready, ma'am," he said with a smile. After he left, Caroline and I stood in the middle of the living room. "And now?" I asked. "Now, you reclaim your space." We spent the rest of the day reorganizing. We brought the rocking chair out of the hallway and put it back in the living room. We moved Chloe's gray sofa to the junk room. We brought my pine table into the dining room and cleaned every inch until it shone again. We went up to the master bedroom. Caroline looked at me. "Do you want your room back?" I looked at the king-sized bed. I looked at the closet full of Chloe's clothes, and for the first time, I said what I really thought. "I want them gone." We started packing. Not with violence, not with revenge, with respect, but with firmness. We folded every garment, every sheet. We put it all in boxes. Her shoes, her perfumes, her things. By Wednesday night, my bedroom was mine again. I had put on the blue sheets I loved. The photos of Arthur were back on the nightstand. The scent of lavender that always relaxed me filled the space. I sat on my bed, and I cried. But not from sadness, from relief. "Something's missing," Caroline said on Thursday morning. "What? Security?" She brought a technician who installed 3 cameras. One at the entrance, one in the backyard, one in the living room. They connect to your phone. You'll be able to see everything in real time. Isn't that overkill? Not when there's $150,000 at stake and documented attempted fraud. Eleanor, you need to protect yourself. On Friday, Caroline had another idea. "Do you remember the shop?" "Your customers? Of course. Do you still have their contacts?" "Some. Why?" "Because when Kevin and Chloe come back, they're going to try to discredit you. They'll say you're crazy, senile, manipulated. You need people who will speak for you. People who really know you." I spent the afternoon calling old customers. Mrs. Gable, Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Sylvia, the teacher. One by one, I told them what was happening. One by one, they told me, "Count on me, Eleanor." On Saturday, 6 days after they left, the house was unrecognizable. It was my house again. Caroline stood watching everything with her arms crossed. "How do you feel?" "Scared," I admitted. "They come back tomorrow. I know. But look at everything you've accomplished in 6 days. You reclaimed your house, protected your money, changed the locks, installed cameras, gathered support. Eleanor, you built your freedom." She was right. But still, my heart beat like a drum when I thought about seeing Kevin walk through that door. "What if I regret it?" I whispered. "What if I see him and I can't do it?" Caroline hugged me. "Then you'll have me. And you'll remember why you started this. Not for revenge, for dignity." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my living room, in my rocking chair, staring at the door. Tomorrow, when they tried to open it with their old key, they would find a new lock. And on the other side, a new woman, too. Because freedom isn't a gift. It's built, brick by brick, decision by decision. And sometimes it takes just 72 hours to change an entire life. Sunday dawned with a clear sky that seemed to mock the storm I felt in my chest. Caroline arrived early with grocery bags. "We're going to cook," she said. "You need to stay busy or you'll go crazy thinking." She was right. My hands were shaking as I peeled potatoes. Every time I heard a car pass on the street, my heart leaped. "What time did they say they were arriving?" Caroline asked. "Kevin sent me a text last night. We'll be there around 5, Mom. We're grabbing a bite on the way." I looked at the clock. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. 7 hours. The doorbell rang, and I nearly dropped the knife. "Relax," Caroline said. "It must be her." "Her?" Caroline smiled mysteriously and went to open the door. She returned with a young woman, about 23, with her hair in a ponytail and clear eyes that looked at me shyly. "Eleanor, this is Paloma," Caroline introduced. "Paloma, this is my sister." The girl extended her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Peterson." "Paloma?" I repeated, confused. Caroline poured us all coffee and we sat down. "Let me explain," my sister began. "Paloma is a nursing student at the university. She just moved here from out of state for her clinicals at the General Hospital. She needs a safe, clean place to live that's close to the hospital, and one that won't cost an arm and a leg because she's barely getting by on her scholarship." I looked at the girl. She had a kind face, the kind that still smiles even when life isn't easy. "I don't understand what this has to do with me," I said. "You have 3 bedrooms in this house," Caroline continued. "One is yours. The other was Kevin and Chloe's, and the third, the one that was the kids', is also vacant. What if you rented out a room?" I was speechless. "Rent?" "Caroline, I've never. Hear me out. First, it would give you a fixed monthly income. Paloma can pay $750 a month. That's the going rate for a room in this neighborhood. Second, you'd have company. You wouldn't be alone in this big house. And third," Caroline leaned forward, "when Kevin and Chloe arrive today and see someone else living here, they will immediately understand that things have changed, that this is no longer their house." Paloma spoke for the first time, in a soft voice. "Mrs. Peterson, I don't want to cause any trouble, but I promise I'm very tidy and respectful. I study a lot, so I'm very quiet. And well, my mom had a stationery shop back home, Lupita's Corner, it was called. You met her many years ago, when you went to a conference there." I looked up, surprised. "Lupita Mendoza? Your mom is Lupita?" Paloma's eyes filled with tears. "She was. She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. But she always talked about you. She said you gave her advice that saved her business when she was just starting out, that you were so generous with her." The memory came back like a wave. Lupita, a young, scared woman who sought me out at that stationer's conference back in 2005. I gave her my suppliers, my contacts, my tricks. I never asked for anything in return. "Your mother was a brave woman," I said, my voice breaking. "Like you," Paloma replied. "That's why when Caroline told me your story, I knew I wanted to help. Even if it's just with my presence, my rent, with whatever I can. I looked at Caroline, then at Paloma, and for the first time in days, I truly smiled. When can you move in? Paloma let out a sigh of relief. My things are in the car. It's just 2 suitcases. Then, welcome home. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Paloma brought in her things. We gave her the room that had been the kids'. We cleaned it together. We put on fresh sheets. We set up her desk by the window so she would have natural light for studying. It's perfect, she said, looking around with bright eyes. Thank you so much, Mrs. Peterson. Call me Eleanor. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the 3 of us were in the living room. Caroline was reviewing some papers. Paloma was studying anatomy on her laptop, and I was watching the clock every 30 seconds. 4:47 in the afternoon. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. We're almost there. About 15 minutes out. They're coming, I said, my voice trembling. Caroline closed her laptop. Ready? No. No one is ever ready for this. But you're going to do it anyway. Paloma looked at us. Should I go to my room? No, I answered firmly. I want you here. I want them to see I'm not alone anymore. 5:02 in the afternoon. I heard the car engine. My stomach twisted. I heard doors shutting, the excited voices of the children, footsteps approaching. And then, the unmistakable sound of a key trying to fit into a lock that no longer belonged to it. Silence. Another attempt. Chloe's annoyed voice. What the hell? Kevin, your key isn't working. Let me try mine. Nothing. The doorbell rang. Loud. Insistent. Caroline touched my hand. Breathe. You are the owner of this house. Remember that. I stood up. I walked to the door. Each step felt like walking towards a cliff. I opened it. There they were. Kevin in his polo shirt and sunglasses. Chloe in a white dress, hair pulled back, still wearing the wristband from the hotel resort. The kids carrying their superhero and princess backpacks. But they weren't looking at me. They were looking behind me. Kevin squinted. Mom? Who? I stepped aside. Caroline was sitting in my rocking chair with a cup of coffee in her hand and a polite smile. Paloma was on the sofa with her laptop and nursing textbook spread out. Hello, Kevin, Caroline said calmly. It's been a while. Kevin turned pale. Chloe, on the other hand, turned red. What is she doing here? Chloe spat, pointing at Caroline as if she were a cockroach. Eleanor, what is going on? The children ran to me. Grandma. Caleb hugged me tight. Lily clung to my neck. Hello, my loves, I said, kissing them. I missed you so much. Why don't the keys work? Kevin asked, still frozen at the entrance. Because I changed the locks, I replied, in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. Firm, clear, unapologetic. The silence that followed was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. Chloe was the first to react. What do you mean you changed the locks? This is our house. No, I said, and that simple 2-letter word came out with a force I didn't know I had. This is my house. Kevin finally reacted. He walked in without asking, looking around as if he didn't recognize the place. And he was right. The gray sofa was gone. Their things weren't scattered everywhere. The house smelled of lavender and coffee, not his expensive cologne and Chloe's cloying perfume. Mom, what did you do? His voice was a mix of confusion and fury. Where are our things? Packed. In boxes. In the bedroom you were using. What? Chloe ran up the stairs. We heard her opening doors, shouting. She came down in a rage. Who do you think you are? Those are my things, my clothes, my shoes. And they're intact, packed with respect, ready for you to take them. Take them? Kevin looked at me as if I'd gone insane. Mom, we live here. What are you talking about? Caroline stood up, walking toward us with a folder in her hand. Kevin, perhaps I should explain, my sister said in a professional tone. This house is deeded in your mother's name, and her name only. You have been living here under a verbal tenancy at will, without a contract, without paying rent, without contributing to expenses. Legally, you are guests, and your mother has decided she needs her space back. You, Kevin pointed a trembling finger at Caroline. You manipulated her. You've always wanted to drive a wedge between us. No one manipulated anyone, I intervened. Kevin, open your eyes. For 2 years, you treated me like I was your employee, like this house was yours, like I didn't matter. We gave you a roof over your head. We took care of you, Chloe shouted. The bitter laugh that escaped my throat surprised even me. You gave me a roof? Chloe, this is my roof. And the only thing you've done is take everything from me under it. Paloma stood up, nervously gathering her things. Excuse me, I think it's better if I… No, I said. Paloma, stay. They need to know I'm not alone anymore. Kevin looked at her. And who are you? I'm Paloma. I rent a room here. Chloe let out a hysterical laugh. You rent? Did my mother-in-law open a hotel now? Your mother-in-law took back her house, Caroline corrected, and she has every right to do whatever she wants with it. This isn't over, Kevin threatened. Mom, you're going to regret this. I walked closer to my son. I looked him in the eyes I'd known since he was born, that I'd watched grow, shine, dream. Kevin, I found the emails. He froze. The messages between you and Chloe, where you laugh at me, where you plan to use my house as collateral for your debts, where you call me naive. His face fell. Mom, you have until 6 o'clock tomorrow evening to get your things. If you need more time, we can talk, but you are not living here anymore. Not like this. Chloe opened her mouth to scream something else, but Kevin grabbed her arm. Let's go. What do you mean, let's go? We have nowhere to go. We'll find something. Let's go. The kids were looking at me with tears in their eyes. Grandma, don't you love us anymore? I knelt in front of them. I love you with all my heart. None of this is your fault. And I'm still going to see you. I promise. Caleb hugged me tight. Lily was sobbing. Chloe ripped them from my arms. Let's go, kids. Your grandmother has lost her mind. I watched them leave, get in the car, drive away. And when they closed the door, when the car disappeared around the corner, when the silence returned, I collapsed. Caroline held me as I cried. Paloma brought a glass of water. They both stayed with me while my body shook with sobs I had held back for years. You did it, Caroline whispered. Eleanor, you did it. And even though every inch of my body ached, even though I felt like my heart had shattered into 1,000 pieces, I also felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I felt free, because closing a door hurts. But sometimes, it's the only way to open a window. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my rocking chair, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound in the house as if I were living in it for the first time. Caroline had stayed with me. She slept on the sofa, even though I offered her the guest room. You need to know you're not alone, she said. At 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone vibrated. A message from Kevin. Mom, how could you do this to us? We're in a hotel with the kids, paying $250 a night that we don't have. All because of your selfishness. My hands trembled. I wanted to reply, to apologize, to tell him to come back. But then I remembered the emails, the laughter, the word naive written with that mocking emoji. I deleted the message without answering. 3 minutes later, another message, this time from Chloe. I hope you're happy, Eleanor. You took the roof from over your own grandchildren's heads. What kind of grandmother does that? You're selfish and a bad person. Kevin is devastated because of you. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. I didn't reply. But the messages kept coming, one after another, like waves of poison. Everyone in the family is going to know who you really are. You're going to end up alone, completely alone, and you'll deserve it. The kids are crying, asking why their grandma doesn't love them. That last one broke me. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming and waking Carolyn, but she was already awake. She sat beside me and took the phone from my hands. Enough, she said firmly. This is emotional manipulation, and you are not falling for their game. But the kids, Caroline, the kids will be fine. They have parents who need to solve this. You've already done what you had to do. I blocked their numbers that night. For the first time in my life, I set digital boundaries. Monday dawned gray. It was drizzling. Caroline had to go to her office, but Paloma stayed with me for breakfast. "How are you feeling?" she asked as we shared a pastry. "Like something has been ripped out of me," I admitted, "but also lighter. My mom used to say that sometimes you have to cut out the rot so the healthy parts can grow." I smiled sadly. Your mom was very wise. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the doorbell rang. This time it wasn't Kevin, it was my cousin Beatrice. She arrived with an exaggerated look of concern and cheap perfume. "Eleanor, what is going on?" she said, walking in without an invitation. "Kevin called me crying. He says you kicked him out, that you've gone crazy, that Caroline is manipulating you." There it was. The smear campaign had begun. "Kevin told you his version," I replied calmly. "Do you want to hear mine?" Beatrice crossed her arms. "Let's hear it." I showed her the emails. I explained the years of humiliation, the money lent and never returned, the plan to use my house as collateral. By the time I finished, Beatrice was pale. I had no idea. No one knew, because I kept quiet. But not anymore. She left without saying much more, but I saw doubt in her eyes. A good sign. It wasn't the last visit. On Tuesday, my old friend Julio stopped by. On Wednesday, 2 concerned neighbors. All with the same story. Kevin calling them, crying, saying I was senile, manipulated, out of my mind. To each one, I showed the deeds, the emails. I explained calmly but firmly. Some believed me. Others left with looks of doubt. But I had planted the seed of truth. On Thursday, Kevin showed up. At 6 o'clock in the evening, just as we had agreed. He arrived in a moving truck. I opened the door. He looked terrible. Puffy eyes, unshaven, wrinkled clothes. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking. "Kevin, are you really going to do this? It's already done." He came in with 2 movers. They started carrying out boxes. I stayed in the living room, watching them take out the furniture they had bought with my money, the clothes, the kids' toys. Chloe arrived an hour later. She didn't even look at me. She went straight upstairs and started grabbing her things violently. I heard drawers slamming, things falling. Caroline arrived just in time. She stood by my side, silent. But her presence was a shield. When Chloe came down carrying a box, she finally spoke to me. "You're a snake," she spat. "A bitter old snake who can't stand to see her son happy." I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to take the bait. If that makes you feel better, you can think that. It's not what I think. It's what you are. And when you're all alone, rotting in this house with no one to take care of you, you're going to regret this. Because we were your family. And you lost us because of your pride. "No," I said with a firm voice. "I lost you because you never saw me as family, only as a resource." Chloe wanted to reply, but Kevin pulled her arm. "That's enough, Chloe. Let's go." As the movers loaded the last box, Kevin approached me. "Mom, I know I made mistakes." His voice broke. "But you're my mother. Is there really no way to fix this?" For a moment, I saw the boy he once was. The son I raised. The one whose tears I dried when he was scared at night. But he wasn't that boy anymore. He was a man who had used me, lied to me, and planned to strip me of everything. "There is a way," I said. "It's called consequences. And it's time for you to face them." His eyes hardened. "So this is goodbye." "No, it's a see you later, when you're ready to talk for real. Without Chloe feeding you lies. Without manipulative games. I'll be here." Kevin shook his head. "You're a stranger." "No, Kevin. You turned your mother into a stranger. I just stopped allowing it." He left without looking back. The truck started. I watched the taillights disappear down the street. Caroline closed the door. The silence that remained was different from before. It wasn't loneliness. It was peace. But the storm wasn't over. On Friday, my phone exploded. Messages from relatives who never called. Now all of them were full of opinions. "Eleanor, how could you kick out your own son? Family is everything. This is unforgivable. Kevin says you're sick. Do you need medical help?" Some even suggested I had dementia, that Caroline had brainwashed me to get my house. It was exhausting, hurtful. but also revealing. All these people judging me now. Where were they when I worked 12-hour days at the shop? When I was widowed at 28? When Kevin took money from me time and time again? None of them were there. But now, they all had opinions. Block them, Caroline told me. All of them. You don't owe them an explanation. But they're family. Family isn't who shares your blood, Eleanor. It's who respects your dignity. She was right. That night, I blocked 17 numbers, and for the first time in weeks, my phone was silent. On Saturday, a week after Kevin's return, Paloma came into the kitchen with her laptop. Eleanor, you need to see this. She showed me Facebook. Chloe had made a public post. There are people in this world who forget what family means, who choose money and selfishness over their own grandchildren. We are going through a very difficult time thanks to a person who decided to put herself first. But God sees everything, and life has a way of balancing the scales. She attached a photo of the kids, looking sad. It had 127 comments, most of them supporting her. Some asking what happened, others cursing the evil grandmother. I felt the air leave my lungs. Don't read the comments, Paloma warned me. But it was too late. So sad there are grandmothers like that. Poor little angels. May God protect them from heartless people. Old age can be cruel. Sometimes older people lose their minds. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. Am I going to lose everyone for doing the right thing? Paloma took my hands in hers. Eleanor, my mom always said, the truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs time. Give them time. The people who truly know you will know who you are. That night, I received an unexpected message. It was from Caleb, my grandson, from Kevin's phone. Grandma, I miss you. Did I do something wrong? Is that why you don't love us anymore? I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in days. I replied immediately. My beautiful boy, you did nothing wrong. I love you with all my heart, and I will always be your grandma. Nothing will ever change that. Things between adults are complicated, but my love for you will never be complicated. It will always be simple, pure, and forever. I love you, Caleb. There was no reply. Kevin probably read the message and blocked the contact, but it had gotten through, and that was enough. 1 week. 7 days of attacks, lies, manipulation, but I was still standing. And my house, my real house, was still mine. Because when you decide to take back your life, not everyone will understand. Some will attack you, others will judge you, but the ones who matter, the ones who truly love you, will stay. And discovering who they are is the most painful and necessary gift life can give you. 2 weeks after Kevin left, the storm still hadn't subsided, but it had changed shape. It was no longer shouts and slammed doors. Now it was something quieter, more venomous. It was the silence of those who stopped calling, the averted gazes of neighbors when I went to the store, the WhatsApp messages left unread by cousins who used to share jokes with me. On Wednesday, I went to the farmer's market. Mrs. Miller, the woman at the vegetable stand who had known me for 20 years, barely greeted me. "Good morning, Mrs. Miller." "Morning," she replied curtly, without looking me in the eye. I bought tomatoes, onions, peppers. As I went to pay, I heard her low voice talking to the woman next to her. "That's the one who kicked out her son and grandkids. They say she's lost her mind." I felt a bucket of ice water being poured over me. I paid in silence and left. By the time I got home, tears were already rolling down my cheeks. Paloma was studying in the living room. When she saw me, she closed her book. "What happened?" I told her. She shook her head. "People talk without knowing. But they talk. What if they're right, Paloma? What if I'm the one who's wrong? Did you take back what was yours?" "Yes." "Did you set fair boundaries?" "Yes." "Did you hurt anyone without reason?" "No." "Then you're not wrong. You're being slandered, which is different. But the words, though true, didn't take away the pain." On Thursday, I received a call from my old friend Estella's home number. I hadn't seen her since Christmas, but we had been friends for 30 years. "Hello? Eleanor, it's me." Her voice sounded distant, cold. "Estella, how nice to hear from you. I'm not calling to catch up. I'm calling because Kevin came to my house yesterday, crying, telling me everything you did to him. My stomach twisted. Estella, if you'll just let me explain. I don't need you to explain anything. I've known that boy since he was a baby. I know what kind of son he is. And frankly, Eleanor, I'm disappointed in you. A mother doesn't do what you did. A mother also doesn't deserve. Don't interrupt me. I called to tell you not to count on me for anything. I don't want to know someone capable of doing that to their own flesh and blood. She hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, trembling. Caroline arrived that afternoon and found me sitting in the rocking chair, staring at the wall. What happened? I told her about Estella, about Mrs. Miller, about all the small stabs that felt worse than a direct blow. Caroline sighed. Kevin and Chloe are doing exactly what I expected. A systematic smear campaign. They're going person by person, crying, playing the victim. And what do? Nothing. I looked at her, confused. The truth doesn't need an active defense, Eleanor. It just needs time. Eventually, people will see who Kevin really is. But you have to be patient. I don't know if I can. I couldn't eat dinner that night. I went to bed early, but sleep wouldn't come. At 11:30, my phone vibrated. An unknown number. I hesitated, but answered. Hello? Silence. Then, Chloe's voice. Cold as ice. I hope you're happy, Eleanor. You destroyed this family. Chloe, how did you get this number? It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you know the kids are not okay. Caleb won't eat. Lily cries every night asking for you. Is that what you wanted? My heart clenched. Chloe, I never wanted. Yes, you did. You wanted to punish us for not being your little lapdogs. Well, congratulations, you succeeded. But when those kids grow up and hate you, remember this moment. Let me talk to them. No. You don't have that right anymore. You earned this. She hung up. I sat in the darkness, shaking, the phone still to my ear. Had I done the right thing? Or was I really destroying my family? On Friday, something changed. I was having breakfast when a message came through on the family WhatsApp group. The group with everyone, cousins, uncles, nephews. The one that used to be for birthday wishes and reunion announcements. Kevin had written, Family, it is with great sadness that I have to inform you that my mother is going through some mental health issues. We have tried to help her, but she refuses. She is now living with strangers in the house, referring to Caroline and an unknown tenant. If anyone can talk to her and make her see reason, I would appreciate it. The children need her. He attached a photo. It was me, taken from outside my house, through the window. I was in my pajamas, hair uncombed, looking tired. He had spied on me. He had come to my house in secret and photographed me without my consent. I felt a mix of disgust and terror. The messages started pouring in. Oh, poor Eleanor. Old age is cruel. Can't we do something legal? Take her to a doctor? Kevin, we're here for you. That's not your mom. It's the illness. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed the phone and called Caroline. When she answered, all I could say was, They're destroying me. 20 minutes later, she was at my house. I showed her the group, the messages, the photo. Her face hardened in a way I'd never seen. This has crossed the line. This is defamation, invasion of privacy, and harassment. What do? First, you leave that group. You do not participate in their circus. Second, we document everything. Screenshots, dates, times. And third, she paused, we need evidence of your mental lucidity. How? You're going to see a doctor, a psychiatrist, ideally. They will do a full evaluation. And when you walk out of there with a certificate stating you are perfectly sane, Kevin will have nowhere left to hide. The following Monday, I was sitting in the office of Dr. Patricia Hernandez, a psychiatrist with 30 years of experience. She asked me questions, many questions about my life, my family, my recent decisions. She had me solve logic problems, remember sequences, talk about my emotions. 3 hours later, I walked out with an official document. The patient, Eleanor P. Peterson, age 67, presents with full mental faculties, intact memory, adequate logical reasoning, and complete capacity for decision-making regarding her assets and her life. No evidence of cognitive decline, dementia, or psychiatric alterations that would compromise her judgment was found. She is in full possession of her mental and legal faculties. Signed, sealed, and with a professional license number. When I showed it to Caroline, she smiled. "This is gold, Eleanor. Pure gold." That night, Caroline wrote a message in the family group. From my account, but drafted by her. "Good morning, family. This is Eleanor. I have read the recent messages with sadness. It hurts me to be spoken of as if I were incapacitated, when the reality is very different. I am attaching a recent psychiatric evaluation that confirms I am in full possession of my faculties. The decisions I have made regarding my property are my own, conscious, and fair. I respect that everyone has their opinion, but I will not allow myself to be defamed. I wish you all the best." I attached the PDF of the medical certificate. The silence that followed was deafening. No one replied, but 3 people left the group, including Kevin. On Wednesday, something unexpected happened. I was watering the garden when a car pulled up in front of my house. 2 figures got out. It was Caleb and Lily, alone. I ran to them. "Kids, what are you doing here? Where are your parents?" Caleb, at 12, looked older than I remembered. More serious. "We ran away, Grandma." "How?" "Dad and Mom went to run an errand. They left Lily with the neighbor and me at home alone because I'm old enough. I went and got Lily and we took an Uber. I had $30 saved up from my birthday." Lily hugged my legs, crying, "Grandma, I miss you. Why don't you visit us anymore?" I knelt in front of them, tears rolling down my face. "My loves, I've missed you every second of every day." "Mommy says you hate us," Lily said with a trembling voice. "She says we're not your family anymore. That's a lie, a very big lie. You are, and always will be my family." Caleb looked at me with eyes that seemed too old for his age. "Grandma, I heard the fights. I heard Mom telling Dad they were going to get money from you. That you were dumb. I didn't understand before, but I do now." I froze. "Caleb. And I also heard Mom tell Dad that if you kept refusing to give them money, they were going to tell everyone you were crazy. That it was the only way to get you committed so they could keep the house." The world stopped. "Are you sure of what you heard?" "Yes. It was about a week ago. I was in my room, but the door was open. Caroline appeared at that moment. She had been in the kitchen and heard everything. "Caleb," she said in a soft but firm voice, "could you repeat what you just said? But this time, on tape, so your grandmother can be protected." The boy nodded. And there, in my living room, with a voice recorder on Caroline's phone, my 12-year-old grandson recounted everything he had heard. When he finished, Caroline stopped the recording. "This changes everything," she said. I called Kevin. He answered on the 3rd ring. "The children are with me," I said before he could speak. "They're fine. Come and get them." I hung up. Half an hour later, Kevin and Chloe arrived in a fury. They banged on the door as if they wanted to break it down. I opened it with Caroline by my side. "How dare you keep them here without our permission?" Chloe screamed. "They came on their own," I replied calmly. "Because you manipulated them?" "No," Caleb interrupted, stepping out from behind me. "Because we wanted to see our grandma. Because you were lying to us." Kevin turned pale. "Caleb, be quiet. You don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, I do. I know everything." The boy stood firmly in front of his father, and with a bravery that broke my heart, he said, "I know you wanted to take Grandma's house. That you said she was crazy when she isn't. And that's wrong, Dad. Very wrong." The silence that followed was so heavy it hurt. Chloe grabbed the kids by the arm. "We're leaving. Now." But before they left, Kevin looked at me. And for the first time in weeks, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't anger. It was shame. When they were gone, I collapsed onto the sofa. "See," Caroline said, sitting beside me. "The truth always finds a way out. Always." And she was right. Because what Kevin and Chloe didn't know was that the truth no longer just lived in my heart. Now it had a voice. It had witnesses. It had proof. And that truth, sooner or later, was going to collect its price. Because you can lie to half the world. But you can never lie to a child who heard you when you thought no one was listening. The days after the children's visit were strange. As if the universe had hit the pause button, Kevin didn't call again. Chloe stopped sending venomous texts. The family group chat remained deathly silent. But I knew it was the calm before the final storm. Caroline spent more time at my house, working from her laptop at the dining table. Paloma studied for her final exams. And I tried to get back into a routine that seemed to have been lost years ago. On Tuesday morning, as I was making coffee, Caroline came into the kitchen with a thick folder. "Eleanor, you need to see this." I sat down. She spread out documents like a scene from a legal drama. I investigated everything I could about Kevin and Chloe's business, the one that was supposedly going to make them rich. And it doesn't exist. Well, it did. It was a multi-level marketing company. One of those that promises you'll make millions selling miracle products. A classic pyramid scheme. A pit formed in my stomach. They put in $25,000 total. Yours. From my loan they never paid back. From credit cards. Everything. And what happened to the money? It vanished. The company went bankrupt 8 months ago. The owners fled to Panama with everything. Kevin and Chloe lost every penny. I covered my mouth with my hands. "But there's more," Caroline continued. "I looked into their debts. They owe $40,000 on 3 different credit cards. Their credit is shot. They can't even get a $500 loan. That's why they wanted my house," I whispered. "Exactly. It was their only way out. To use it as collateral for a big loan, take the money, and who knows if they would have ever paid it back." I looked at the papers. Red ink. Collection agency stamps. Legal notices. "How did you get all this?" "I have contacts. And also," she hesitated for a moment, "Kevin tried to use your house as collateral 3 months ago. Without your signature. He forged a power of attorney." The world stopped. "What?" The notary caught it. "He asked for you to appear in person. Kevin made up an excuse that you were sick, that you couldn't move. The notary refused to proceed without seeing you. That's why they tried to convince you to sign it later, to streamline the process." "I was going to sign it," I said in a hollow voice. "If I hadn't found those emails, I would have signed it." "I know. That's why we're here now." Caroline closed the folder. "Eleanor, with this, we can do 2 things. 1, we file a criminal complaint for attempted fraud. Kevin would go to jail, no doubt. 2, we use this as protection. If they try anything against you, legally or publicly, we show them everything. And they sink themselves. I don't want him to go to jail. I know. But you need to be prepared for what's coming." "What's coming?" Caroline sighed. "Desperation. When people have no way out, they do terrible things." I didn't understand her words until Thursday. That day, Paloma came running home from the university. She was pale. "Eleanor, you need to see this." She showed me her phone. On Facebook, in a neighborhood group, someone had published a long post. It was Chloe. "Dear neighbors and friends, my family is going through a terrible time. My mother-in-law, whom we loved and cared for years, has accused us of horrible things that aren't true. She kicked us out of her house, which was also our home, leaving my children without a roof over their heads. All because of a manipulative sister who convinced her we are bad people. We have lost everything. Our home, our dignity, the relationship with my children's grandmother. And now we can't even afford the rent on the apartment where we're staying. If anyone can help us with anything, food, clothes for the kids, work, we would be infinitely grateful. God bless you." She attached photos of the children. In old clothes, in a small, dark apartment, with sad faces. The post had 89 comments and 134 shares. How awful. Sometimes elderly people lose their empathy. "I can donate clothes. Send me a message. Poor kids. They don't deserve this. Does anyone have this lady's contact info? Someone needs to talk to her." I felt like I was suffocating. "They're running a public pity campaign," Caroline said when I showed her. "Worse, they're indirectly asking for money. This is emotional manipulation at its finest. What do I do? Do I respond? Do I set the record straight? No. Because if you respond, you look desperate. If you clarify, you look cruel. It's a trap. So, nothing? No. Something better. Caroline smiled. The truth. But not from your mouth. From other voices. I didn't understand until she started making calls. First, she called Mrs. Gable, my old customer from the shop. She explained everything. Mrs. Gable, without my knowing, wrote a comment on Chloe's post. I have known Eleanor Peterson for 25 years. She is the most hardworking, honest, and generous woman I have ever met. If she made that decision, it was because she had very valid reasons. Don't be fooled by a single version of the story. Then Mr. Henderson. Eleanor saved my business when no one else would help me. She is a woman of her word and has a good heart. Don't believe everything you read, Mrs. Sylvia, the teacher who had bought school supplies from my shop for 15 years. I know this family and I know Eleanor. There is much more to this story than they are telling. Be prudent before you judge. One after another, my old customers, people I didn't even know remembered me, began to defend me. Not with attacks, not with aggression, just with testimonials of who I really was. By the evening, Chloe's post had a completely different tone. The new comments were cautious, some even questioning her version. Sounds like there are two sides to this story. If so many people speak well of the lady, something doesn't add up here. Why don't you show proof of what you're saying? Chloe deleted the post that same night. On Saturday, 3 weeks after it all began, I received an unexpected call. Mrs. Peterson? This is Fernanda from the bank. Yes, hello. I wanted to inform you that someone attempted to access your old account, the one we closed. They used old passwords and correctly answered the security questions. Who? I can't give you that information over the phone, but the attempt was blocked. I just wanted you to know that someone has your sensitive information. Please change all your passwords. I hung up, my hands shaking. Kevin. He had tried to steal from me. Caroline arrived half an hour later. I told her. Her expression hardened. That's it. This has to end. How? With the full truth, face to face. That night, Caroline drafted a text. She sent it from my phone to Kevin's. Kevin, we need to talk. The three of us. You, Chloe, and me. No kids, no third parties. Monday at 10 a.m. at my house. If you don't show up, I will proceed legally with everything I have. The choice is yours. The reply came 5 minutes later. We'll be there. Sunday was the longest day of my life. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I just walked around the house, rehearsing in my mind everything I was going to say. Paloma made me calming tea. It's going to be okay, Eleanor. The truth always wins. And if it doesn't, then it wasn't the truth. Caroline arrived early on Monday. She brought her folder of documents, her recorder, and something else. A notary. A notary? I asked. Just in case. If we reach an agreement, we document it immediately. No room for second thoughts. At 10:03 in the morning, there was a knock on the door. I took a deep breath. Caroline squeezed my hand. Remember who you are, and why we got here. I opened the door. Kevin looked terrible. He had lost weight, had deep dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled. Chloe, on the other hand, arrived put together, made up, with a hard expression. They walked in without a greeting. We sat in the living room. The notary stayed in the dining room, discreet but present. No one spoke for the first 30 seconds. Finally, Kevin broke the silence. Mom, is this why you wanted us to come? To humiliate us with your lawyer and your notary? No, I replied in a firm voice. To put an end to the lies. Caroline placed the folder on the table. Kevin, Chloe, we are going to put all the cards on the table, and at the end of this conversation, you will decide if we want to resolve this as a family or in a courtroom. And so, with the morning sun streaming through the windows, we began to unearth every lie, every deception, every secret that had poisoned this family. And though it hurt like pulling a thorn embedded to the bone, it was the only way to start healing. Because the truth isn't cruel, the lie is. The truth only hurts when you've been avoiding it for too long. Caroline opened the folder slowly, as if disarming a bomb. Let's start at the beginning, she said, her voice professional but not unkind. Kevin, 15 years ago, you borrowed $10,000 from your aunt. You never paid her back. Kevin opened his mouth, but Caroline held up a hand. Then, your mother gave you $30,000 for the down payment on your condo. You promised to pay it back. You didn't. Then, $20,000 for the wedding. Another $5,000 for the business. Adding up everything your mother gave you in cash, loans, and direct payments, it comes to $67,000. In 8 years, Chloe tried to interrupt. She gave it to us. They were never loans. There are text messages where you yourselves call it borrowed money. Caroline cut her off. But let's continue. The business. That multi-level marketing company you sank almost $25,000 into. It went bankrupt. You lost everything, correct? Kevin nodded, staring at the floor. Now you owe $40,000 on credit cards. You can't get any credit. And 3 months ago, you tried to use this house as collateral for a loan. Without Eleanor's signature, with a forged power of attorney, Kevin turned pale. I was going to ask for her permission. Liar, Caroline snapped. The notary has a record of you saying she was sick, that she couldn't come in. That's fraud, Kevin. That's jail time. We weren't going to do it, Chloe shouted. We were just exploring options. With forged documents, I said, finding my voice, with my forged signature. You looked me in the eye for months knowing you were planning to steal from me, and you laughed at me. I showed them the printed emails, the same ones I had found weeks ago. Kevin read them. I saw his face change, first confusion, then horror. Chloe, you wrote this. It was a joke, she said, her voice trembling. A joke? My voice broke. Calling me naive is a joke? Planning to steal my house is a joke? We weren't going to steal it. We just needed a big loan to get out of this hole, with my house as collateral, without asking me. And if you couldn't pay, I would lose my home. The silence that followed was so thick it hurt to breathe. Caroline continued, relentless. Then came the smear campaign, telling the whole family Eleanor is senile. The photo taken without permission, the Facebook post begging for pity and money, and the attempt to access her bank account last Friday. Kevin looked up sharply. What? I didn't. Chloe looked away. It was you, Kevin said to his wife in a voice I had never heard from him. Cold. Broken. We needed the money. We're about to be evicted from the apartment, and for that, you were going to steal from my mother? Your mother has money, and we have nothing, because we lost it all on your stupid ideas. Kevin stood up, trembling. The multi-level marketing business was your idea. We're going to be rich, you said. We just need an initial investment. I believed you. And now we're ruined because of you. Don't put all the blame on me. You wanted the easy money too. But I didn't want to steal from my mother. That was your idea, wasn't it? Chloe fell silent, looking at him with eyes full of rage. And in that moment, I saw something I never thought I would see. Kevin choosing. He turned to me. There were tears in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry. Kevin, no, let me say it, please. He knelt in front of me, literally got on his knees. I have been the worst son in the world. I used you. I lied to you. I stole from you. I let her treat you like dirt. And it was all because it was easier than facing my own failures. Tears streamed down his face. I'm ashamed of myself, of what I did to you, of what I allowed. And if you never forgive me, I understand. But I need you to know that I love you, and that I finally understand everything you sacrificed for me. And I wasted it. All of it. Chloe stood up. Are you seriously going to grovel like this? Yes, Kevin replied without looking at her. Because she deserves it. And you and I need serious help. We can't go on like this. If you think I'm going to. I already filed for divorce, Kevin said simply. Chloe froze. What? This morning, before I came, I spoke with a lawyer. I can't do this anymore, Chloe. This isn't a marriage. It's a toxic partnership that's killing all of us. She looked at him with pure hatred. She grabbed her purse. You're going to regret this, Kevin. I already regret a lot of things. This won't be one of them. Chloe stormed out, slamming the door. Her expensive perfume hung in the air, but she was gone. The notary discreetly retreated to the kitchen. Caroline closed the folder. "Kevin," my sister said, her voice softer, "what are you going to do now?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Get a job, a real one. Not some scheme. Get a small apartment I can afford and try to be a better father to my kids and a better son. If my mom will let me." He looked at me, waiting, not demanding. "Did you really file for divorce?" I asked. "Yes. I've known for 2 weeks I should have, but I was scared. Not today." I stood up. I walked toward him. He tensed, as if expecting a blow. I hugged him. He fell apart in my arms, crying like he hadn't since he was a little boy. "Forgive me, Mom. Forgive me. Forgive me. I forgive you, son," I whispered in his ear. "But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or going back to how things were. If you want to be my son again, you're going to have to build it with actions, day by day. Do you understand?" "Yes. And I'm going to set boundaries, firm ones. I'm not giving you any more money. You're not going to live here. I will love you, but I will also protect myself. I understand. You deserve it." We stood there, hugging, while Caroline watched from a distance with a sad smile. The following months were strange. Different. Kevin found a job as a manager at a hardware store. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid $1,200 a month. He rented a 1-bedroom apartment. Small, but decent. The kids started visiting me every other weekend. Caroline drew up a parenting agreement. Legal, of course, with set schedules. The first time they came after everything, Lily hugged me and didn't let go for 10 minutes. "I missed you so much, Grandma, and I missed you, my love." Caleb was more cautious, more wounded by everything he had witnessed. "Grandma?" "Yes, sweetheart. Are you really going to forgive Dad?" I knelt in front of him. "I've already forgiven him, but forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. It means I've stopped carrying the anger. Do you understand?" "I think so." Over time, Caleb began to open up again. Lily never stopped being affectionate. Chloe disappeared from the picture. The divorce got messy, but it was eventually finalized. She got her car. Kevin got the debts. The kids shared custody. With Paloma in the house, life took on a new rhythm. She cooked when I was tired. I helped her study as if she were my own granddaughter. "Eleanor, thank you for letting me stay here, not just for the room, but for making me feel like family. You are family now, Paloma." One day, Paloma came to me with an idea. "What if we turned part of the garage into a workshop? We could offer craft classes to ladies in the neighborhood, charge a small fee. I can help with organizing." The idea excited me in a way I hadn't expected. 3 months later, Eleanor's workshop opened its doors. We started with 5 students. By the second month, we had 12. It brought in about $1,000 a month. It wasn't much, but it wasn't about the money. It was about the laughter, the stories, the company. It was about feeling useful, alive, me again. 6 months after everything, on a Saturday afternoon, there was a knock on the door. It was Kevin, alone. He didn't have bags. He didn't have demands. He brought a lavender plant in a pot. "I know you like the smell," he said simply. "And I wanted, I don't know, to bring you something that grows. As a symbol." I smiled. "Come in." We sat in the living room, me in my rocking chair, him on the sofa. "How's work?" "Good. I got promoted to supervisor. It's an extra $200 a month, and I finished paying off one of the credit cards." "I'm glad, son. I started therapy. It's tough, but necessary." "That's very brave. I learned from you." We sat in silence. But it wasn't awkward, it was peaceful. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you know it was time to say enough? How did you find that strength?" I thought for a moment. I didn't find it. It was always there. It was just buried under years of fear, guilt, and the need to please. But when I finally dug it up, I realized I had never been weak. I had just been dormant. Kevin nodded, with tears in his eyes. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "No," I said firmly, "but with love. You're going to spend the rest of your life being the best version of yourself. Not for me, for you, for your kids. That's the only compensation I want." He got up to leave. At the door, he turned. "I love you, Mom. And I love you, son. Always." That night, I sat in my rocking chair. Caroline was visiting, sipping wine on the sofa. Paloma was studying in her room. "You know what the strangest thing is?" I said to my sister. "What?" "For years, I thought losing Kevin would be the end of my world. But when I lost him, when I closed that door, I discovered there was a whole universe waiting for me on the other side." Caroline raised her glass. "To the universes we discover when we close the right doors." We clinked glasses. I looked around. My house. My home. It smelled of lavender. It sounded of the laughter from the workshop that would be here next week. It felt like home. It wasn't perfect. Kevin and I were still healing. The kids were still processing their parents' divorce. Chloe still posted nasty things about me on Facebook, though no one paid attention anymore. But I was at peace, because I had done the hardest thing a mother can do. I chose myself without stopping loving my son, and it turned out both things could exist at the same time. Epilogue. 1 year later, the workshop was full. 15 women, of all ages, embroidering, laughing, sharing coffee and cake. Kevin arrived with the kids. They came every weekend now. "Grandma, look what I made," Lily said, showing me a drawing of a house with flowers. "It's beautiful, my love. It's your house, with your garden, because it's the prettiest house in the world." Caleb sat beside me. He was 13 now, in the thick of his teenage years. "Grandma, my teacher assigned us a project to interview someone important to us. Can I interview you?" "Me?" "Yeah, because I want to write about the bravest person I know." My eyes filled with tears. It would be an honor. That night, after everyone had gone, I went out to the garden. The roses I had replanted were in full bloom. The bougainvillea climbed the wall. The lavender scented the air. I sat on the bench Caroline had given me. It had a small plaque that read, "For Eleanor, who reclaimed her garden and her life." I looked up at the stars, and for the first time in decades, I didn't think about what I had lost. I thought about everything I had gained. My dignity, my peace, my home, my relationship with Caroline, a new friend in Paloma, a workshop full of women who called me their teacher, a healthier relationship with my son, the pure love of my grandchildren. And most of all, I had won myself back. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. The air smelled of damp earth and flowers. And I smiled, because true wealth isn't in what you own, but in what you refuse to let anyone take from you. And I had reclaimed the most valuable thing of all, my right to live in peace, in my own home, being simply me. Sometimes, the happy ending isn't getting back what you had. It's discovering you deserved something much better. If this story touched something in your heart, leave me a comment telling us where you're watching from and what part resonated with you the most. Give it a like if you believe there are stories that need to be told. And subscribe to the channel to continue sharing stories of life, dignity, and second chances. Because we all deserve to know that it's never too late to reclaim our home. And when I say home, I'm not just talking about walls. I'm talking about that inner peace that no one should ever be able to steal from you. See you in the next story. Take good care. And remember, you deserve to bloom too.